My mother-in-law secretly took dozens of hidden photos of me with my 4-month-old son, including while I was nursing, and told me I was too fat and ruining every picture by being in them. Need to get some feedback on this because it's driving me crazy. My 37F family has been staying with my husband's 36M parents, 59F and 59M, for a week, and we'll be at their home for another week before we have to head home to get the kids ready for back to school. My mother-in-law and I don't necessarily get along, but she's been trying to play nice since I gave birth to our 4th child, a boy, 4 months ago. However, I suppose the nice act has ended because she's been stirring the pot and pushing my buttons since we got to their house, rummaging through my clothes, whining that I should bottle feed instead of nursing so she has a chance to feed her baby, the works. I've been biting my tongue because my husband loves his family and this is some of the only time we get to see his siblings, but at the end of this week, my mother-in-law storms downstairs while we're eating breakfast and the kids are in the yard playing, claiming we needed to talk. I go through a mental checklist to try to figure out which one of her household rules I've broken, or how I've managed to piss her off this time, when she slaps her phone down on the counter and begins scrolling through photos that are all of me and the baby, photos she apparently took while I wasn't paying attention, as most of them are blurry or from strange angles, down low, as though she angled her phone up while it was in her lap, and one of them is taken through a crack in the door to my husband's and my bedroom. I ask my mother-in-law what her problem is and why she's been taking photos of me and the baby like a lunatic instead of just asking for my help with taking photos I'd approve of. I don't want my infant son's face plastered all over her social media. I cover it with emojis in my Facebook pictures. She complains that she doesn't want to put those stupid pictures all over his face, and that I won't put him down long enough for her to get a photo of him by himself. He's been contact napping, and I wear him for most of the day, and she can't post the photos she took because I'm huge and ruining them by looking ridiculous. For context, I'm definitely on the heavier side, 5 feet 3 inches and 230 pounds, and because half of these photos are from a weird low angle, I have a prominent double chin, and the baby is usually pressed up against me either in my arms or in his wrap, so the photos are pretty much just unflattering pictures of me, with the baby's head and maybe an arm or a leg visible. I tell her that I'm not going to entertain this behavior and, since she decided to approach the supposed problem like this, she can work with what she's already got, but she's definitely not getting a solo photo op with my baby now. My husband is understanding and supports my decision, even getting in the way when he sees my mother-in-law trying to sneakily take more photos, or distracting her so I can leave the room, but some people think I'm blowing this out of proportion. My father-in-law says my mother-in-law has a right to take photos of her grandchild and it's not her fault that I'm insecure about how fat I am. My husband's twin sister is also being dismissive because she's always been catty about weight. Why are you acting so insulted like it's the first time? Even my sister, when I called and complained about this, acted like I was making mountains out of molehills. She was like this 60 pounds ago, why is it suddenly a big deal again? No one will listen to me when I insist that I don't care about her comments on my weight. I care that she's sneaking around taking photos like a stalker because she doesn't respect me enough to ask my permission to take photos of my baby. She doesn't want to have to follow my rules about covering his face, and she can't wrench him out of my arms to get pictures of him, so she's just been acting like a creep instead. I'm nursing him in one of these photos. This is weird, right? Am I crazy? /relevant comments. Commenter. Not the jerk. I'd report her pics on social media with your baby and say that it's inappropriate child content or something. Because the pics look like they've been taken stealthily, it kind of works in your favor, lol. I'm sorry people aren't respectful of your wishes, but it's great that your husband is and he seems to be trying to help. Also, side note, you are allowed to be annoyed at somebody body shaming you and ask them to stop. I hate how older generations think they are allowed to pass for things like this, racism, sexism, etc. Ops response. I didn't even think about reporting her photos. If they manage to pop up on her Facebook, I'll definitely do that to get them taken down. I've told her to mind her business about my body, especially in front of my children, but she's nosy and can't help but make comments. So long as they're just to me or to my husband in private, I can at least let them roll off. She's been somewhat better about keeping her mouth shut while the older kids are around. Commenter 2. So effing weird. Her baby? What? Psychotic, to be honest. I wouldn't be able to deal with this. Ops response. She's baby crazy, and so far my children are her only grandkids. I'm glad I haven't lost it and that this is creepy behavior. If my husband didn't like his siblings so much, we'd never set foot in this house. Op adds an edit to her post. Thank you guys for proof that I'm not crazy. I honestly didn't even think about going home early. I was fully prepared to just grit my teeth for the rest of this visit because we only took one car on the drive up here. I'm packing my and my son's things, and when my husband gets back from fishing with his dad and his brother, I'm asking him if he can drive me and the baby back home. I'll be able to have peace of mind and have the house to myself for a few days so I can get things in order before the kids have to go back to school. Op adds a second edit to her post. My husband is back. They're home from fishing early because my brother-in-law lost his pole and they forgot to bring any spares. He and I have been texting since he left early this morning, and he's taking the baby and me home. We're planning on having a conversation about what time spent with his folks will look like going forward on the drive back. Thank you all for the advice, for giving me the gumption to leave early, and for keeping me company with your comments while I packed my stuff. Update 3 days later. I wasn't going to update because I got home with the baby, settled in, and thought nothing of it. I just communicated with my husband and my 14-year-old through texts and phone calls while they were gone, but problems started to follow pretty soon after. After my husband returned to his parents' house without the baby and me, his mother huffed and started grumbling about how dramatic I am, how possessive I am of her baby, and how I was ruining this trip for everyone. My sister-in-law began winding her up, talking about how I didn't want anyone else to build a relationship with the baby. My husband told both of them to mind their business and get a grip, mentioning to his mother that he needed to have a serious talk with her once the kids left with my brother-in-law for lunch. My mother-in-law rolled her eyes and walked off. They had a talk, and my husband insisted to his mother and father that they couldn't expect me to roll over it and let them stomp all over my limits just because they wanted access to our baby, that we are the final say in what happens with our children, and if they couldn't get on board with that, they could forget about seeing them, especially not unsupervised. He told his mother that her sneaking around, acting like my word meant nothing, was childish and proved that she wasn't trustworthy, and he told both of them to keep their opinions about my weight to themselves. This started what my husband later told me was a 2 to 3 hour argument that only stopped because my brother-in-law came back with the kids, and my husband refused to discuss this in front of them. My mother-in-law pulled out crocodile tears, asking why he wouldn't defend her, insisting that I was trying to ruin their relationship. My husband has never been close with his mother, and saying that she just wanted to show off her baby to her friends and the extended family. My husband responded that if she really wanted to take pictures of the baby, all she had to do was ask for help so he or I could cover the baby's face. My mother-in-law and father-in-law argued that they shouldn't have to ask permission, that they're grown adults, and they can do as they please in their own house. My husband reminded them that it is our baby, not theirs, and since they felt so strongly, that's why I removed myself from the situation. He told them that if they wanted to see our baby, they could do it at our house, where they'd have to follow our rules. This went back and forth, with my mother-in-law eventually shouting and stomping her feet until my brother-in-law returned. For the rest of the day, my mother-in-law was grumbling under her breath and practically ignoring our older children, even as my 5-year-old was clamoring for her attention. My husband paid her no mind and spent the evening playing board games with the kids and my brother-in-law while my sister-in-law and his mother sulked in the kitchen. Fast forward to last night, my husband was having a couple of beers with his brother while my mother-in-law and sister-in-law had wine in the kitchen. My father-in-law had gone to bed early, and the kids were asleep. My husband hears my mother-in-law and sister-in-law giggling to each other, and while casually checking his phone, he sees that my mother-in-law has posted all of the photos she took of me on her Facebook page, captioning them with, "Up won't let me see my grandson, so you'll have to excuse her hogging the frame." In the comments of her post, she was chatting with her sisters about me, derogatory comments on my hair, as my icon and username reflect, I'm a natural redhead, shaming me for my selfishness, and, of course, comments on my body. My husband flipped, demanding that his mother take the photos down or he'd take her phone from her and do it himself. Apparently, there were more photos than even the ones we saw at first, and in several of them, my top is fully open with my nursing bra unclipped. My mother-in-law, unaware he was serious, tried teasing him that she thought he wasn't ashamed of being married to a fat woman. My husband rushed into the kitchen and snatched his mother's phone out of her hands after a brief scuffle, deleting the photos from her Facebook and then removing them from her phone altogether, before throwing her phone down on the counter and telling her that he was leaving first thing in the morning. My mother-in-law scowled and started shouting that it wasn't fair he was taking my side. He responded that he loves me, and that it isn't my side versus hers, it's our side versus hers. I was pretty out of the loop about all of this at that point. I'd been cleaning the house, looking after the baby, and dealing with the cold I was apparently incubating for the first week of our visit. I got a call from my husband while I was doing laundry in the basement. He was in his car trying to keep himself calm but said that he'd be home early with the kids in the morning and wanted to have a discussion with me about our plans moving forward. He told me what happened, I calmed him down, and we both headed to bed. Fast forward to this morning, I got up early with the baby to have breakfast and coffee ready. My husband arrived with a 14, 10, and 5-year-old at about 6 a.m. We had breakfast, and then the kids peeled off to do their own thing. Our daughters left for their friends' houses, and the 5-year-old went into the basement den to watch cartoons on the big TV. My husband and I talked, and he said he's done with that annual visit to his parents' place, and that he's planning to have some one-on-one time with his brother a few times a year instead. We went over a plan of action in terms of much stricter boundaries, deciding that the kids won't be going to the in-laws' house anymore, and that when the in-laws visit us at our house, if they act out, they'll be kicked out. My mother-in-law has been blowing up his phone since he left, but he's ignoring her for the time being and helping me with cleaning. He also sheepishly admitted that, as disrespectful and frustrating as his mother's creepy photos were, they'd given him a new appreciation for my round face. I picked a winner, y'all, truly. Top/relevant comments. Commenter. I assume this is your first boy? I say that as your mother-in-law hasn't pulled this with your girls. I suggest that if your in-laws come to your house or you meet them elsewhere, then all of their phones are kept by you. That is the only way you are going to control the photos. I bet they won't comply, so say it is non-negotiable. Congratulations on having a husband who backs you up against his family. I would have smashed the phone up completely after deleting the photos. Did he check there wasn't any online backup of them? Your in-laws sound awful. Just say no phones or cameras in the future, and they will probably stay away. That would be a massive win for you. Redheads are supposed to have a super fiery temper. You sound very restrained. Ops response. It's our second. Our kids are 14F, 10F, 5M, and 4-month-old M. We're definitely considering that the in-laws' phones will have to be sealed in those pouches teachers are making kids put their phones in now or something. My husband's spine makes me proud. I love that man. He screened my mother-in-law's phone to make sure there were no backups before he put her phone down. I'm surprised I stayed as calm as I did. I guess my temper comes out in other areas, or I've just calmed down as I've gotten older. I was a menace when my husband was playing soccer and lacrosse in college. Commenter 2. I'm very curious if your mother-in-law acted this way when your other children were babies as well. Is this her biological grandchild and your other kids are not? Or is she just baby obsessed? I don't know, man, she seems crazy. Ops response. She's very baby obsessed. She was ecstatic when we had our first, and then even more ecstatic for the second. She practically exploded when we had our first boy, and now she's falling apart at the seams because she finally has a grandson who looks like my husband. She's got baby rabies to the extreme. If I was this obsessed with the infant stage, we'd probably have way more kids. How did Op's husband turn out okay? He had good influences outside the home, I suppose. He did leave home early, and my sister-in-law is his twin sister. My brother-in-law is his younger brother. And this comment from Op on her thoughts regarding baby photos. Exactly. Even beyond creeps, there are plenty of scammers and the like who use photos of children for their own strange purposes. Plus, I feel like baby photos are sacred. Once a kid is about 5 or 6, you can sort of ask, oh, mommy's going to take a photo so all your aunts and uncles can see, you want to take a picture? And get an authentic response, but before then, private photos. I'm thankful I kept my eldest's photos from birth to 4 entirely offline. With how cagey and easily frustrated and embarrassed she is about the indignity of having ever been a baby, teenagers. I swear, she'd never let me live it down if I posted her baby pictures online.